Dear Afro friends and family, welcome to another episode of Afro News at Noonish. I'm Aria Brent, Afro Digital Marketing Editor and a staff writer for the Afro as well. And today we're coming at you with some of the headlines that we saw this weekend and some that you can anticipate being covered in the upcoming week. So I'll go ahead and start us off. Unfortunately, a lot of the headlines that I saw this weekend were full of tragedy. This weekend in Jacksonville, Florida, there was a shooting at a local Dollar General that was carried out by 21-year-old Ryan Christopher Palmetter. He initially had tried to get onto the campus of Edward Waters University, and they turned him away after kind of seeing him and having a suspicious feeling. He then went to the local Dollar General and proceeded to shoot 3 Black people, and he also took his own life as well. Following that, there's been an investigation opened by the FBI. They are identifying this event as a hate crime, and they found his manifesto where he talked about his hatred for Black people. They also found some of his weapons, one of which had a swastika carved into it. The 3 people who were killed in the shooting, unfortunately, was 52-year-old Angela Michelle Carr, 19-year-old Anolt A.J. Laguerre Jr., and 29-year-old Gerald Deshaun Gallion. So, may God rest their souls. The Jacksonville community is definitely mourning this, especially because there's been a lot going on in Florida, of course, with race relations, with all of the policies that DeSantis has been putting into place. But also they've just been looking to move past their racist past, and this seems to be putting them backwards a little bit. In addition to this shooting, there was also a shooting in the Columbus, Ohio area. 21-year-old Takaya Young was shot outside of a local grocery store. It was reported by Columbus police that she was a suspect in stealing. Young was sitting in her car, and a Kroger employee went up to the police officers who were there to help another patron who was actually locked outside their car. As I was saying, the employee approached him and was like, hey, we've had some people stealing, and one of the young ladies is currently sitting in her car. They approached her on both her driver's side. Another officer stood in front of her car. The moment they approached her car, apparently she started it. As they were trying to get her to get out of her car, she then proceeded to move forward, and the officer standing in front of her car shot her. She later was taken to St. Anne's Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Young was pregnant at the time, and she is also a mother of 2. So those are all the details that have been released regarding that. There's more to come. Nobody knows as to whether or not she actually was a suspect in stealing. Apparently, there were several other suspects who got away, and she was simply the one who was caught. So we'll get you guys some updates about those when we have more details, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Tashi. What headlines do you have for us this week?
All right, so on August 23rd, City Council members questioned the Baltimore City Recreation and Parks handling of a few pool closures, including Patterson Park Pool this summer, and took a deeper look at the communication methods. In the hearing, BCRP, which is Baltimore City Recreation and Parks, did admit that their communication was lacking and have committed to improving their internal communication sense and their direct communication with the community to help some of those Baltimore residents, such as the Patterson Park Pool area, get an alternative this summer. Councilman Zeke Cohen of District 1 did raise over $15,000 to set up a temporary splash pad outside of the Patterson Park Pool area, which was officially opened on August 23rd. The free splash pad will be available on Sundays from 1 to 4 and on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 3 to 6, and it will be open on Labor Day as well from 1 to 4 p.m. They are also anticipating that the pool will remain open until September 17th on Saturdays and Sundays only. So to learn more about the specifics of why Patterson Park Pool was shut down and when it may be reopened, check out the full article on afro.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Tashi. Megan, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so last Thursday, August 24th, the AFRO held a networking reception at our headquarters in downtown Baltimore in honor of National Black Business Month. We welcomed entrepreneurs across an array of industries, and during the event, the AFRO debuted its new digital billboard network. The network is a system of television screens displaying original coverage from the media company. The screens are located across 10 locations like gyms, restaurants, salons, barber shops in Randallstown and Owings Mills, Maryland. And it was just really nice to have that networking event just because a lot of the people that attended I had interviewed before for various stories and things like that, but I was never able to meet them in person, obviously because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it was great to see so many new faces, so many familiar faces, and we just had a really wonderful time. And in other news, on Saturday, August 26th, I actually went down to Annapolis for the March on Washington commemoration that was led by the Caucus of African American Leaders in Anne Arundel County. If you weren't aware, on the morning of the first march, Nearly 500 Annapolis and Anne Arundel County residents traveled to DC to join the protest. On last Saturday, attendees marched from Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium to Annapolis City Dock. And at the City Dock, they held a formal program where attendees heard from a slate of speakers in the faith community, civil rights community, and speakers in education. David Wilson, who is the president of Morgan State University here in Baltimore, gave the keynote address and talked a lot about how he had to fight to get to college. His father at one point told him that he would never be going to college. But when he heard Dr. King speak about having a dream while he watched the speech on a television at his uncle's house, he decided for himself that one day he would go to school, and he did. He went to Tuskegee Institute, and now he's the president of Morgan State University and gets to usher in more students who want to obtain higher education. But the best part about the event for me was really meeting some of the original marchers who marched in the 1963 march. About 20 men and women were there and were honored with citations from Anne Arundel County Executive Stuart Pittman. One of the women I met was Barbara Booker Wood. She was 21 when she participated in the march. She had just had her second child. She had just moved to DC with her husband. Her mother was very nervous about her going because she was so young and she had just had a child, but she was really involved with Dr. King's messages, especially reading about his work, and wanted to go. But I'll have a story on afro.com coming up this week, and you can learn more about Barbara's story there. But it was a really wonderful event.
It sounds like your weekend was good and full and productive. That's super exciting. Thank you so much for that coverage. Gonna go ahead and toss it to Miss Managing Editor Alexis Taylor. What do you have for us?
It was a busy weekend all throughout the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. So I did get a chance to attend the 60th anniversary march in DC. I love that they said that it was more than just a commemoration. This was a continuation of the work that was began 6 decades ago. So it was beautiful to just see so many Black people out there on the National Mall united around the same causes. So we got out of there. I'll let Ashley talk more about what happened in DC as far as the March on Washington. But immediately after the March on Washington, I had the opportunity to attend the Baltimore Met Gala, and y'all, it was so beautiful. Like, Black people know how to dress. Okay, that's one thing I will say. Like, going to different galas and different events, whenever Black people put their mind and their creativity together and say, we're going to throw this event, there's going to be a theme, it's going to be as bougie as you want it to be, like, we come out, all right? And if you don't believe me, I'm going to share my screen just a little bit to show you just a piece of what went down. You can see this on the Afro News Facebook, and I'll show you just a little bit about the about one of the designers. So this is designer Jody Davis, and the theme of the Baltimore. So the theme of this gala, everyone created outfits around the earth elements. And so that is air, water, fire, earth, and people stayed on brand. They stayed right on topic. That was a little bit of fire from Miss Jody Davis. Brandon Warren covered the element of air. Just beautiful flowy designs, the smoky gray palette and the white palette. It was just beautiful. So we do have to see just a little piece of this as well. Now, I'm gonna tell you, more than one of these designs I would gladly purchase right off the rack and go somewhere, just as is. The outfits were beautiful. I got a chance to speak to some Black designers. There were people there in the crowd who designed their own clothes for the Met Gala and wore them out there. They talked about the importance of passing down the tradition of sewing, the importance of Black people being in this fashion space, and they highlighted the fact that, y'all, the fashion industry really does do what we say. Okay, Black people are at the forefront of the fashion industry. Over the years, you know, you have these people who come in and just pump in fresh ideas and just infuse our culture into the fashion industry. So Baltimore Met Gala, y'all did it again. It was beautiful, and thank you for the invite. All right, I'll throw it to Miss Ashley Fields, who was in DC for the March on Washington with us. Thank you to everyone who helped with that coverage. We had a full team out there all day. They worked really hard. So Miss Ashley Fields, tell us about that.
Yes, so we had a lot of legendary leaders out there like Al Sharpton, Reverend Jamal. We had the president of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Elsie Cook Holmes, and all of them were dressed to a T, even though the weather was extremely hot. So like Alexis said, Black people definitely know how to step. They know how to march. We had Martin Luther King's son alongside his wife and granddaughter there as well who spoke. And so it was a very passionate moment. People were on the front line sharing different things about reproductive justice, voting rights, college admissions, and other things like that that have become the topic of conversation after the Supreme Court rulings. And so that's something that we are, really interested in covering and that you'll see in our paper this upcoming week. So thank you, Daquan. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Jean, for being out there and capturing those moments for us. But more specifically to DC and more specifically to minority Black-owned businesses, JP Morgan and Chase hosted a ceremony recently for the Global Black Economic Forum and National Minority Supplier Development Collaboration. And so we had Christine Hurd cover that. She was able to provide us with information about historically underserved business owners and this collaboration, which aims to challenge racially motivated financial disparities, which we know exist extremely in our community. Last up, I definitely want to highlight Sha'Carri Richardson for her big win in Budapest, Hungary. She anchored the 4x1, which was unexpected, but did an outstanding and fantastic job. She won the 100-meter dash. And then we also had Noah Lyles, who is a native of Arlington, Virginia, do the double for the 100 and the 200 meters. And so we are super proud of him. He was also on the 4x1 as well. So shout out to them. And I'm really, really proud to be Black after this weekend. I would say that. So thank you guys for watching another episode of Afro News at Noon. Please continue to tune in next week as we cover more pressing topics.